So we'll get started and I'll let people in as we go. So thank you for joining us today for the How to Find Your Own Internship information session. Once again, I just want to make sure everybody can see my screen. Everybody can see the PowerPoints. Last time I had a bit of a technical issue, so I don't want to repeat my mistakes. Okay, great. All right, so I won't take too much of your time. This is our agenda for today. I'll give a presentation and overview of all of our services and everything that's accessible to you, including the awards as well. Then we have one student speaker around 12:30, Catherine, that will be joining us. And finally, there's times for questions. So if you want to ask questions throughout, you can send them in the chat and we'll address them at the end. But if there's anything else that we did not address during the session, then you can stick around until the end and just ask us. There's not too many of us today, so you can just unmute yourself or again, write in the chats. All right, so let's get into it. So if you're not familiar with our office, we are the Arts Internship Office. I see there's a mistake. The ION should be removed from that slide. But AIO is the Arts Internship Office, and we have three pillars that are the internship opportunities, the funding opportunities, and the training opportunities. So it really comes as a package when you go through our services. So this is a timeline. We often have students that come to us and are kind of worried, like, is it too late? Is it too early? When should I be applying? So now is the perfect time to really get into the preparing your applications, as you can see on the January to March bubble. So we have all of our info sessions. And again, I'll get into all the resources to prepare your CV and cover letter. And then we'll get into the interview session, interview periods, and there's a few deadlines coming up. So again, a lot of dates, important dates coming up. And then in April, it's really you're getting ready, you're finishing your semester, getting ready for your internship. And then again, all of our resources are really focusing on summer internships, so between May and August. And then when you come back, as I was saying, we have training and we do a lot of like reflections and debriefing on your summer experience, so you can really make the most out of your internship experience. So just to get an overall definition of what is an internship and what is not an internship, again, to make that clear. There we go. There we go. So sometimes people come to us and we're like, oh, actually, that's more of a summer job rather than an internship. So how do you make the difference between those two is really about the learning opportunity that you're going to get from that opportunity. So it needs to include learning objectives, training, and supervision and mentorship. So again, you really have a supervisor that's going to give you all this mentorship. There's kind of a plan of what it's going to look like throughout the summer. And you're not expected to already know everything. Again, a lot of people come to us and are really worried that they don't have enough experience to do this internship. But again, you are a student, you're here to learn and you're here to experience something during the summer. Again, it's a great opportunity for you to explore your fields and to see if you like something before you graduate and, you know, commit to a job. So again, this is a short-term commitment and you're really there to learn. And it's not necessarily a mandatory part of your studies. Again, a lot of people come to us as first years. If you do want to apply as a first year, you definitely can, and there are opportunities out there. However, there's no co-op program in the Faculty of Arts, so it is not mandatory whatsoever. If you do want to take a vacation or do a job, that's also all right. But we don't want anyone to turn away from an internship because they think they don't have, for example, the money or the resources. Because again, we want to make it as accessible as possible for everyone to reach those opportunities. Because it's really going to help you in your studies in your future to have this opportunity. So what is not an internship? Again, if it's really just a part-time job that doesn't have any mentorship or learning objectives, that would not qualify as an internship. And there's two things we want to warn you about is volunteerism. So it would be being to a destination somewhere as a tourist and then paying a certain amount of money. It's often there's fees involved. And it's companies that are like, oh, you're going to help the local community. But at the end of the day, they're really just making profits out of people coming to those destinations. And it's not going to benefit you and it's not going to benefit the community that they advertise to help. So we try to warn you about those organizations, and as well as any fee-based organization out there. I haven't heard of them as much lately, but before the pandemic, it was quite a big business. If you see any website of people that tell you like, oh, if you pay us like $1,000, we'll place you in an internship. Those are very unsafe. And you can access all of our resources for free. You shouldn't have to pay to get an internship. And again, they're not going to be in your best interest. Again, they're really just trying to make money out of students. And again, there's much better and safer ways to go about finding an internship. So I hope that helps. And so at the office, we offer 3 types of internship opportunities. So today we're really going to focus on the third one, but just to give you the overall view, we have internship postings. So those are postings with organizations that we have partnerships with. Those are automatically funded. They come with an award, and they automatically also come with the whole package of training and again, the award. And again, so we take care of the application process. And for that, the deadline is February 12th. So I'll get to the website to show you where everything is located on the website. So first you can have a look at the postings, but this is only a limited amount of places. And often people are scared to apply because they're competitive. At the same time, we do encourage everybody to apply, but there's also a ranking of 3. You have to choose 3 and rank them. So obviously it's limiting. And if you do not get one of those, you apply on February 12th and then you hear back 2-3 weeks later and you did not get the internship, then it's always good to have a backup plan as well and apply for your own. And I'll also mention briefly the ARIA program, which is a research program. It's more targeted for U2, U3 students that really wants to do more in-depth research with a professor on campus. And that also comes with an award. But finally today, we're really here to talk about how to find your own internship. So that's any internship with any other organizations. If you want to go to a specific country, if you want to go back home, if you want to stay in Montreal, but in a different field, if you're doing something that's not listed on our website under postings. I see there's questions in the chat. I'll get to those once I've gone through my slides. And I might respond to them during the slides. So how to find them? Can I still get an award for them? The answer is yes, and then we'll get into how to do all of that. So the main resource is our website. So I'll now share my screen to show our website and just to navigate you through the website so you can go back on your own and find exactly what you need. So this is our website. I hope everybody can see it. If you cannot, please let me know in the chat. So this is the main page. Again, there's a lot of information out there. So I'll really talk you through the main places that you should be looking at if you're looking for your own internship. So the first tab would be to go in internships. So these are the postings I was talking about. Again, those are, we had another info session on it, so I'm not going to get into many details. You can watch that video here. But it means that we take care of the application process. You apply through this form, and we have very specific PDFs with all the details on them. So again, we try to make it more easy and accessible for everyone. Already comes with the awards and with all the details that you need to know about the position. But again, there's different categories, but it doesn't include everyone in the Faculty of Arts, or not everyone can get those positions. So you can also find your own. So again, if you go back to internships, you have the Find Your Own tab. So that's going to be the main resource for today. So I'll slowly go through all the resources. So this is a recording of today's session that we did last year. So I'll update it after today for today's session. So if you want to go back to anything I said today, you can go back to it. Again, I recommend to read that first paragraph. There's a lot of useful tips on finding your internship, such as having realistic goals, target organizations of different sizes. Again, lots of resources in there. And then Steps to an Effective Internship is a very useful PDF. We also have some printed versions at the office if ever you come by, but you can also just look at that. It's a checklist. So again, I personally love a good checklist. We know that you're busy as a student, so it really helps you break it down into steps and questions to ask yourself. Again, important considerations of what are your learning goals and outcomes? What would you like to gain as skills or knowledge? What geographical region do you have in mind? Again, some general tips and some actual links and resources out here. So this is a very useful PDF to start with. Here are the postings I was talking about. So again, we really encourage you to apply to these. If there's anything that's in your interest, you really have to make sure to read carefully the requirements to make sure that you qualify. And then when it comes to finding your own, so every other database under that, there's no one deadline. So you have to really go into that posting, go to that organization. Either they're already going to have an internship setting, they're already going to have an internship program with an application process, but sometimes they don't. So you just have to contact these people and try to ask if they are looking for an intern for summer 2023. So if you're interested in staying in Montreal, we have this very neat database that we made at the office, which is a list of Montreal organizations with a very nice table of content. So this is all of them. And then they are organized by type. So you can see archives, museum, libraries, arts and culture, crime, safety, legal services. So again, there's some more broad organizations and some that are more specific. So for example, here you can see Italian Trade Commission. So you can go, if you scroll all the way, then you have not only the name, but we also gathered a quick description of the organization, their address, their contact information. But then again, then it would be your job to go on their websites and then or reach out to them through their email and then make sure that they have spots for summer 2023. But again, it's a very useful way to kind of navigate and finding names. And as I was going to say with the Italian Trade Commission, for example, Italian. So that's like one office, but then you can go through different countries. You can really kind of go off the names of the organizations there to find other similar organizations. This is one resource. Then if you don't want to just stay in Montreal, you want to potentially go abroad, or if you want to go through more broad places. So we have another database. You have to log on. So it is through the Internship Offices network, which is for every faculty on campus. So you have to log in with your, oh, if it lets you, I think it doesn't let me when I'm signed in on the Zoom, but let me try again. Oh. All right, well, unfortunately, it won't let me log in, but then you log in and then there's a filter. So you can see by region, by interest. So again, it's a big database. I think there's over 700 opportunities on there. And it's the same concept as it says here, 700 organizations and areas of interest. And it's the same concept of we try to link you to their contact page, but then you have to do the steps to reach out and make sure that they could hire you for the summer. And my future database, let's see if it lets me log on to that one. My future is the one that is a McGill Database. I think I can log on to that one, yes. So that one it really talks about jobs. So it's not just internships. So again, with that definition in mind of what an internship is compared to a job, you have to look around for those resources. There's quite like a lot of things on there. You can go in here, job search, and then again, there's a lot of keywords, location, lots of different ways to go about finding those opportunities. So again, those are starting places. Obviously, the internet is very wide. You can find a lot more than that. I also suggest platforms like LinkedIn. I feel like a lot of people use it these days, and it's a great way to either get in touch. Often people also post opportunities on LinkedIn if they are looking for people and they already have internship platforms as well. So again, those are really starting places that you can find some names and make yourself a list. Again, if you go back to that first PDF, it's really a useful tool. And the central point of all of these resources and databases is going to be your CV and cover letter. So for that, we work a lot with the CAPS, which is the Career Planning Services, which is also a resource for every faculty on campus. So those last links are really going to be crucial to help you write your CV and cover letters. So again, there's so many useful resources. They also do one-on-one advising. We've heard that they're quite busy for the next couple of weeks, but we'll try to make more room as well to partner with them and for you guys to have opportunities to meet with advisors specifically for CV and cover letter. But you can always use their guides that are online. So we'll open one of these. Again, we have some printed at the office as well. And again, it's a very useful, again, on the internet, you can find lots of resources, but these are really targeted for students and go into very practical tips on how to write your CV. Oh, sorry, I opened the cover letter one, but so yeah, and for the CV, it's, again, as a student, a lot of people were like, oh, I don't have that much job experience. What am I going to put on it? So again, those resources are going to help you navigate that. And you can really put any experience that you've had, any volunteer experience, again, in this format, following the same formats that are suggested, but it's really to highlight your skills. You know, if you're bilingual, your education, you can put your high school and your current degree, your research experience, community involvement. So again, there's lots of things you can put on a CV, and you can reuse that for most of your applications. But when it comes to the cover letter, so the other one that I had opened, we always tell students, you know, if you're applying for the postings that are the AIO postings, then you should reuse the words that are in the description and the requirements. You should really answer that. It should be, again, so about a 1 page. It doesn't have to be, it shouldn't be more than 1 page. Again, this PDF will really get into the details, but you should really reuse the wording that is used in the posting, and really, you know, do your research about the organizations and show that you understand what their mission is, and explain how it ties to your own motivations as a student, as a learner, and how you could provide, you know, what you could provide to this organization as an intern. And try to be specific. Mainly, that would be my advice. Don't just copy paste a very general one for every application. Obviously, you can use elements about yourself for all of them, but really try to make it specific about that position. Try to talk to people that have done it before. So I'll get to that as well on our websites. But yeah, cover letters should be specific. Otherwise, people won't be very interested in hiring you if you keep it too broad. So yeah, the internship tab really has lots of information. I see we have a question that I can answer now. Can you apply for funding through AIO if you're a graduating student? So all of the resources here are for returning students. So if you're graduating, you can go into for graduating students tab. And I already mentioned the career planning services. So they would really be the ones able to help you at this stage of your studies. So you can go on their website. They also have, again, they have different advisors for general planning, career planning advisors. They have fairs, lots of resources. But unfortunately, every resource, the awards and the postings that we have are only for returning students. So you have to currently be a student, and then you have to be coming back in the fall. I hope that answers your question. If you want to have a look again at the description, the definition of an internship, and more information on volunteerism and fee-based organization, it's all listed on the website as well as the timeline. And we had some department-specific info sessions last year as well. So if you are in art history, we're going to have another one again this semester. So that's all for internships. Again, this is really where you should start your search. And then funding, as we're talking about funding. So a key element to remember today as well is that all of our postings come with a fixed award. However, if you find your own internship and it is unpaid, then you can apply for funding. So we have awards available, and you can go and apply for funding. The deadline is March 19th. So you need to have an internship secured before March 19th. We're going to have another info session. So you can see the one from last year, which is going to be quite similar. But we also have another one coming up, so you can register for that if you have more questions about the award specifically. But again, there's lots of details. It's open to every full-time Faculty of Arts students that must be returning. So again, if you're graduating, you will not be eligible. You must have secured the internship. It should be 8 to 12 weeks in duration. It must take place during the summer, so between May and August. And there is a GPA requirement. However, there is room, you know, if anything happened with your GPA, you can explain in the bottom and really explain to us, you know, if anything happened that impacted your GPA. Things that are not eligible, that is good to keep in mind. If you're doing an activity that is primarily academic research, then unfortunately it would not be eligible for these awards. However, you should look into our ARIA awards, which I will talk a bit more about. If you work for big corporations, for-profit corporations and privately held companies that do not pay you, unfortunately, you would not be eligible because they should be able to provide their own funding. As well as there's multiple field studies and courses on campus. So anything academic related would not qualify as a funding. It really has to be an internship in an organization. And again, if you use any third-party fee-based internship organization, we would not be able to fund that internship. So yeah, again, you can go into selection criteria, the application process. So the application process, the web form, again, the deadline is March 19th. You can start looking at it, but again, the first step is to secure your internship and have that internship confirmed first. But you can also approach an organization and explain to them, if it's a small organization that doesn't have funding, you can explain that you can apply for funding through McGill. However, the funding is not what's the word I'm looking for? It's not confirmed, it's not for sure. However, we do, again, if you meet all the eligibility criteria, we do really encourage everybody to apply, but we cannot make any promises of how much you're going to get. It's really based on the budget. Again, I invite you to really read through those sections about funding, but you give us an estimate of the budget and that you would need, and then we try to match that depending on how many donors we get for the summer. So again, we try depending on how many applications we get. So it's good to have a look in advance because again, you need a recommendation letter. Like this is not something you should be doing last minute. But again, the first step would be to find the internship, and you still have like 2 months ahead of you for that. So this is for funding. And if you go under funding tab, you can also go through the Internship Award Recipients page and see the past year's award recipients. So again, award recipients are both the AIO postings recipients, but also people who applied on their own and found an internship. So you can kind of like control F, and for example, if you're in political science, you can go through every person that was in political science and did an internship, and you can see the names of the places where they interned. So for example, Michelle found her own last summer at the Center for International and Defense Policy under, did I read that right? Yes, the Network for Strategic Analysis. And then you can reach out to that organization, or you can reach out to us to be in touch with Michelle. She's also a staff at the office, so it's easy to be in touch with her to ask more questions about how did you get this internship. And you can reach out to the organization and say, oh, I saw that you had a McGill intern last summer. So they would be more likely to have another student for the next summer as well. And you can see that they already qualified for the funding. And you can also see like the year. So for example, if you're in U0 or U1, you can also kind of go through and see that we had interns that were in U1. And you can also see the name of the organizations that hired them, and that could also potentially be an option for you. So the past award recipients page is also a great resource to use. So this is for funding. As I mentioned, ARIA, I have another slide on it as well. We also have another info session, but to give you a quick overview, as I said earlier, it's really you're working on a professor's research. It has to be a full-time faculty member on campus, and it comes with a total award of $5,000. One of the requirements is that the professor needs to have $2,500 in their research grants available for you to match. And we match the other 2,500 from the office. And again, so there's lots of information on the website of how it works, eligibility criteria. Again, this is something for currently enrolled and returning students. The GPA requirement is a bit more not as flexible as for the award, as it is really an academic program. You need to have completed 60 credits. So again, I would let you do your own research on it, but you can look at the info session to have all the information. And if you have any more questions, you can always come talk to us if you're interested in applying for ARIA. Sorry, a quick sip of tea. So for travel, if you're looking for your own internship and it requires travel, I would also invite you to look at the travel tab as soon as possible. As you can see, there are some mandatory steps to take before you travel. And obviously you really want to be prepared. You really want to be informed, not just COVID guidelines, but also visas. And, it takes a lot of preparation to travel. And there are some McGill steps that you really have to do in advance. So especially if you're going outside of Canada, you have to do the pre-departure orientation. And that is on my courses. So it's a course that you have to sign up for on my courses. You have the McGill Abroad website that you can find here. And they recommend to do it 3 to 6 months prior to the internship. So again, I would suggest to just sign up now, even if you're thinking of doing something abroad, even if it's not confirmed. It doesn't have to be confirmed to have the certificate. And then once you complete the course on my courses, then you have a certificate and you can like show it to us. For example, if you apply for an award abroad, you would have to show the certificate that you have completed the pre-departure orientation. So it's very important. And the McGill Student Travel Registry is also very important, but that's more closer to when your departure. That has to be done about 2 weeks before your departure, and you fill in all your personal information and safety information in case anything happens. Then McGill will be able to contact you. So again, on the travel tab, there's everything listed. I won't get into AMI, but it's a mentorship program that we have. I'll quickly talk about tomorrow. We're going to have a coffee in this room with some past interns. So if you want to meet some past interns, tomorrow you will have that possibility. I see that our student speaker also is joining us right now. We also have some documentation available for example, if you're doing an internship in France, you might want to think about the déclaration relative, which is the equivalent to the convention de stage. Again, those are very more specific questions, but I invite you to read over those sections to have all the information. And again, on our website, you have the events tab. You can see, so this is today's session. There's information for tomorrow's event for the coffee. It's from 10 to 12 on Leacock 3rd floor. And then we have a few more info sessions, as I was saying, for awards and for art history. So you can register as you did for today. And finally, we have a workshop for interviews. So end of February, if you're selected for an internship and you need some help preparing for interviews, again, we collaborate with the career planning services to have their advisors guide you on how to do interviews. Another great resource about past interns is the stories. So again, this is a mix of the AIO postings and the Find Your Own. And you can read more, for example, if you see in the past award recipient, someone that did something, for example, like Fondation Emergence, you're like, oh, I want to know more about what this person did. And then you can read their reports. So you can really have a better idea of what the internship looked like. And again, you can use that information if you're applying and writing a cover letter. And finally, the contact page, very important, is, again, we have drop-in hours. This is not the end of the presentation, just the end of the website, but we have drop-in hours at the office. You can usually come any day, but these are really the times where the door is going to be wide open and we'll be ready to talk to you. You can find all the recordings of the past info sessions on our YouTube channel. And if you have any questions and if you cannot make it to in-person drop-in hours, you can always email us as well. But we really recommend that you come to drop-in hours because we can do one-on-one advising sitting down, because sometimes over email things get lost. And we also have social media, I forgot to mention, so Facebook, Instagram. So we update very often about events and opportunities. And we also have a newsletter where we also send if we have like any external opportunities. So that could be very interesting to join. And we send like a summary once a month about like all, again, like events and resources and what's happening in the upcoming month in terms of internships. So that's it for the website. So I'll go back to the slides and I will give them right on time, 12:30. I will let our speaker, Catherine, tell you a little bit about how they found their internship. Catherine, are you good to go? Awesome, thank you.
Hi. So let's see. Do you just want me to like give an overall? Okay.
Yeah, so you can
Let's see.
just say about like where you started, how do you find your internship, and what you did in the end, and how it went, just quickly.
Okay, great. So basically, I am a U3. I'm in my second to last semester right now. So I did my internship last summer. Um, I'm studying political science and international development studies with a minor in Hispanic studies. So I'm focusing on immigration at the US-Mexico border. So in 2019, I did a mini kind of internship and made some connections there. doing like youth outreach for about a month. And when I was trying to think of what I was going to do this past summer, I reached out to my old boss. So, I mean, that's my number one thing, is always going back to people that might be able to have a connection where you want to go, and not being afraid to reach out and just ask, because that's all I did. I said, "Hi, I'm interested in immigration. And I really loved working with you. And do you know anyone?" And she got back to me. So I'm very lucky for that. And then once I met with my boss to be, I just, we hit it off, which is again very lucky. And so I told her, like, I can definitely come work for you, and I can try to get funding through my school as long as you're okay with signing off on a few things and helping me with the forms. So I did that. I got the internship at the beginning of March, and like throughout the month, I was just doing the rounds of application documents and everything. It was a little ironic for me because I was going back to the US, which is where I'm from. So like preparing to go international was a little bit funny, but definitely there were a lot of resources for that. And yeah, so I'm trying to remember all the paperwork. I definitely got a head start on it because it was a good amount, just to make sure that this was a real internship. And like, if you find someone who's willing to go through it with you, I would recommend making it as easy as possible. Like I tried to like prep a template for my boss so she had like the least amount to do because she's working a full-time job. Um, but yeah, so I was able to do all that, and then the internship went really well for like 2 months in the summer, and here I am. So that's basically it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. If anyone has questions, I won't keep Catherine around too long, but um, yes, Catherine is also one of our mentors, as I was mentioning, Amy, and who's been very generously giving back to future interns. So again, when we say it's like a package, it also comes with like training, and really we try to like create connections between past interns and future interns to share the resources. So thank you so much, Catherine. I hope that was helpful to have a student's perspective, and I'll get back I just have a few slides left, and then I'll give it to the questions on here. Okay, there we go. So again, some commonly asked questions that maybe you will be eager to ask, and where you can find the answer on the website. So is it possible for a U0 or a U1 to get an internship, or should I wait? Is definitely possible. Not every opportunity, like a very high level UN internship, for example, might not be what you should try first. But for example, like a more local organization where you would be a lot more hands-on. Again, it really depends. But there are opportunities, and as you can see on the past award recipients under the funding tab, you can see kind of like what type of organizations that people have interned with. It's also worth in your first year to just kind of like apply around, see if you get anything. And if you don't, that's okay. As I said, it's not mandatory right away. You have multiple summers to do an internship. But it's good to kind of like get in the mindsets and get all that information right away, so that the next summer you'll be more prepared and more ready, and you know already what you're getting into. So can I pursue an internship outside of Canada? Yes, you can, but you have to follow the travel tab. Catherine made a good point that you do have to do those steps if you're going back home. Again, if you're doing an abroad internship, you would have to follow the same course. And can I pursue an internship that is not directly related to my major? Absolutely. We also want to encourage students to do something that's out of their, field. So again, your CV and cover letter is really going to be the place where you can explain why, for example, you're into political science, but you want to do a film festival, but like the ties between those two, obviously they can be related, but you can also use that opportunity to explore something. And out of all the opportunities under the internship tab, that's where you would find your answer. And if you're interested in a more research-oriented internship, you can talk to your professors and look into the ARIA program. So we have a quick guide to cold emailing. Again, as Catherine was saying, when you're finding your own, that's often you're going to have to do a lot of that. Either they're going to have the internship program set up and you'll be able to just follow their guidelines and their application process. But if they don't, you have to be a little bold and just send some emails. People really don't mind, trust me. As someone who gets emails, it's always a pleasure and you're not bothering people. That would be my first advice. But do your research. Before you reach out to anyone, you have to read about the organization's missions and values. That applies for any application. You don't want to just blindly apply to something, because people are going to be able to tell if you don't know what you're talking about. Address the email to the organization's director. Again, this depends on what contact information you can find. Don't necessarily, write to the CEO. Try to be kind of like smart about either talking to HR. If it's a bigger company, I would say emailing HR could be a good way to ask them if they are hiring any interns for the summer. Or if it is a smaller company, smaller organizations, NGO, they're often going to tell you. You could also, if there's no names mentioned anywhere, then yes, use the organization's director's name if it is mentioned. Sometimes you're just going to have like an info email. Those ones might be a bit harder to get an answer from. But again, it really depends. So it's always worth a shot. And introduce yourself, your program in McGill, and your year of study. Give a brief introduction. State a timeline of your internship. Again, as Catherine was saying, it's good to make it easier on the other end of things, because for them, if you're trying to convince them to add an intern, it has to be, not that much work added on for the organization. So you can set your timeline to be really clear about what dates you're available. For example, if you have any travel plans, any vacation plans, don't forget that that's going to happen, and don't commit to an internship if those plans are going to overlap. Like, don't say that you're available in June if then you're going to change your mind last minute. That's not going to go well. And include your resume and cover letter. Write a specific cover letter for each organization. As I was saying, don't just copy paste from one to the other, and highlight key skills and experiences that are relevant to the organization. Even if there's no posting, again, you can just highlight, by doing your research, what you can bring or what you understand of this organization. Again, you're not expected to know the entire organization. You can also ask questions. But it is really just showing a strong interest and yes, in that specific organization. And it's good to get into logistics already, from the start, about this is, again, I could come here. I live in this city, so I already have accommodations. Or again, I can apply for an award for me to travel to this location, things like that. I think people appreciate having all these details up front. And follow up with the organization 1 to 2 weeks later. It's okay to send another email. Don't send it the day later, but 1 to 2 weeks later, I think, is a good average for you to follow up with the organization. And yes, you can follow up. You can, if it's in Montreal, you can just go in person as well, try to meet them. Going to events as well is a great way to network, to meet people, and potentially follow up to see if they have anything. So again, in terms of meeting past interns or getting more information on the office, tomorrow we're having a coffee in Leacock 308 on the 3rd floor. So this is today's info session. Then we're going to have a more detailed on how to apply for awards info session on February 3rd. And then a very detailed one on art history internships. And finally, the interview workshop. And as I've been talking about for funding, so as I mentioned before, all of the AIO postings come with an award. You will have to follow the same steps as an award recipient, but you can apply for the award if you find your unpaid internship. Again, I kind of went through those eligibility criteria, and good to keep in mind that the deadline is March 19th. And again, as Catherine was saying, it's good to look into it before, even if you're waiting for a confirmation, because it can take a bit of time to gather all the documents. And I guess in terms of numbers, to give you an idea, we had 125 students receive an Arts Internship Award last summer. And for ARIA, we had 38 undergraduate students. If we have any graduate students in the crowd today, one difference is that ARIA is only eligible for undergraduate students. It's an undergraduate research program. However, the awards are open to graduate students as well. As you can see here, it's Bachelor of Arts, Arts and Science, Social Work, and the Masters as well. So really read carefully the eligibility criteria. So deadline for ARIA is February 26th. And that's it for me. So stay connected. As I said, we have our drop-in hours Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We're located in Leacock 307, our main office on the 3rd floor. And I recommend you to follow all of our social media and email. And I will get to the questions in the chat. So I know that the EIO can pay us if we get an unpaid internship outside of McGill, but does that also hold true if we get an internship that is not located in Canada? Yes, you can get funding for an internship outside of Canada. Something I didn't mention is that you don't get the money initially at the start of the summer. It's in 2 payments. So if you are traveling, you have to be able to buy, for example, the plane tickets, but then you'll get some money in, I think it's around mid-June and mid-July in 2 separate payments. So to help you offset those travel costs, for example. But yes, you can definitely apply for an award if you're doing an international internship. Can you apply for funding through IO if you're a graduating student? So as I said, unfortunately not. It is only for current students that are returning in the fall. If you meet eligibility criteria, are you guaranteed to get funding, or is there a limited number of students that get funding? It is limited in a way, but again, we really encourage everybody to apply, and we try to match people as best as possible, depending on how much funds we have for the summer. But there's nothing guaranteed. I think that's the word I was looking for earlier. We cannot guarantee you any amounts or dates or anything or numbers, but as you can see, there's like over 100 students that do get funding. So we really encourage everybody to apply, and we really try to accommodate everyone, but we just cannot make any guarantees. There is another bursary available as well in terms of that is needs-based. So again, if that is something that's an issue for you, you can always come talk to us. It's really easier to talk one-on-one. But we really try to break down those barriers in terms of funding limitations. So thank you so much. If you have any other questions, I'll stick around for a little bit. You can either unmute yourself or write them in the chat. I'll stop the recording for now. Where's my